Simone, this is a family matter. You need to leave.
Excuse me?
You heard me. Get out.
Mother.
6 years in the Hawthorne family had not taught Simone to expect fairness.
It's all right, Vincent. I'll wait outside.
Mrs. Hawthorne, please don't leave.
Why should she stay?
Because Mr. Hawthorne instructed me not to continue unless Simone Hawthorne is present.
But Charles Hawthorne was not finished with his family yet.
Mr. Hawthorne placed his controlling shares and protected family trusts into a 12-month estate structure.
And who controls it?
Simone Hawthorne.
What?
The shock was not only that Simone had been chosen, but that Vincent had not.
My father gave my inheritance to my wife?
No, Mr. Hawthorne.
Then what exactly did he do?
He placed your insurance under her protection.
For Vincent, the deepest wound was not the money, but what his father's decisions seemed to say about him.
Mr. Hawthorne also left a corded message.
If you are watching this, then I am dead, and several of you are already angry with me. For the next 12 months, Simone will protect what I leave behind.
Why her? I didn't know.
Long before Charles trusted Simone with his legacy, one person in the family had already trusted her with something far more fragile.
You don't have to stay.
I know.
Then why are you sitting there?
Because you said you didn't want to be alone.
That was why what came later would hurt so much more.
Did you know my father planned this?
No. I swear I didn't.
Then whatever he was thinking, we'll figure it out together. I won't let this come between us.
Welcome to Tales Through Time, where love is tested, secrets are exposed, and even broken hearts can find their way home. At first, Vincent seemed determined to keep that promise. 2 evenings later, the family gathered for dinner at the Hawthorne mansion. The meal had barely begun when Vincent's mother looked toward Simone and said, "Your father has put an outsider in charge of decisions that belong to this family." Vincent set down his glass. "Enough." His mother stared at him. "Vincent, stop calling my wife an outsider." The table went still. Vincent did not look away from his mother. "She has been my wife for 6 years. Emma calls her mom. If that still does not make her family to you, the problem is not Simone." Simone looked at him in surprise. For once, he had not waited until they were alone. For once, he had not asked her to ignore the insult. He had stopped it. Victor watched from the other end of the table and said nothing. Later, in the car, Simone touched Vincent's hand. "Thank you." Vincent looked ashamed rather than proud. "You should never have had to thank me for that." For one brief, dangerous moment, Simone believed Charles's will might have forced Vincent to become the husband she had been waiting for. Victor had seen the same moment, and he understood exactly where to press next. Victor did not challenge Vincent immediately. He knew his nephew too well. Instead, he waited. A few days later, he met Vincent for lunch. They talked about the company, employees, markets, Charles. Only when coffee arrived did Victor mention Simone. "Your wife looked genuinely surprised." "She was." "I believe you." Vincent looked at him. Victor stirred his coffee. "What bothers me is your father." "What about him?" "He clearly trusted Simone with information he didn't trust you with." Vincent's jaw tightened. "You don't know that." "No," Victor shrugged. "But Charles didn't create that trust in 10 minutes. Vincent said nothing. Victor let the silence do the rest. Simone spent the first weeks trying to understand exactly what Charles had left her responsible for. There were accountants, attorneys, trust managers, stacks of reports. She had never wanted Hawthorne Holdings. Now she was expected to protect it. One evening, while reviewing a series of property subsidiaries, she noticed something strange. 3 entities had guaranteed loans for companies she had never heard of. The amounts were small enough to escape attention individually. Together, they were enormous. She flagged them. The finance team called them legacy arrangements. Simone asked for the underlying documents. 2 were missing. The third contained Charles's handwritten notation. "Check beneficial owner." Below it, another sentence. "Do not allow transfer after my death." Simone stared at the page. Charles had known something, and whatever it was, he had died before finishing it. Emma heard about the will at school, not the legal details. Children never needed details, only enough fragments to hurt each other. She came home quiet. Simone found her sitting on the stairs. "What happened?" Emma shrugged. "Nothing." Simone sat beside her. After a while, Emma asked, "Did Grandpa give you Daddy's money?" Simone's chest tightened. "Who told you that?" "Someone at school said their mom said you took the company." Simone took Emma's hand. "I didn't take anything from your father." "Then why do you have it?" "I don't have it. Grandpa asked me to look after some things for a while." "Why?" Simone smiled sadly. "I wish I knew." Emma studied her. "Are you going to take my money too?" "No, you promise." Emma, listen to me. Nothing your grandfather left for you is mine. My job is to make sure it is still there when you're old enough to decide what to do with it." Emma leaned against her. Simone kissed the top of her head. From the hallway, Vincent watched them. For a moment, something in his expression softened. Then his phone vibrated. Victor. Not long afterward, Victor found Emma's trust documents. He invited Vincent to his office. "These are not ordinary trustee powers." Vincent scanned the pages. "She can block distributions." "Yes." "For Emma?" "She can block almost anything involving Emma's trust." Vincent frowned. "My father made my wife the gatekeeper of my daughter's inheritance." Victor leaned back. "Your daughter." The words landed exactly where Victor intended. Vincent waited until Emma was asleep. Simone was in the kitchen. "I need you to do something." She looked up. "What?" "Step away from Emma's trust." Simone stopped cutting fruit. "I can't." "You can ask the lawyers." "I already know what they'll say." "So you've thought about it." "Of course I've thought about it. I've thought about walking away from all of it." "Then do it." Simone set down the knife. "Vincent, Charles built restrictions around Emma's trust that are different from everything else. Until I know why, I'm not touching them." "She's my daughter." Simone stared at him. "I know." "No, I don't think you do." Silence. Vincent rubbed his forehead. "I'm saying I should decide what happens to her future. And I'm saying your father apparently thought someone might try to get access to it. You keep talking about my father as though his paranoia matters more than what I want for my own child." "Emma is my child too." Vincent looked at her. Then, angry and frightened, he said the thing he could never take back. "You are her stepmother, Simone. I am her father." The kitchen became completely still. Vincent knew immediately. "Simone." She took one step back. "No, I didn't mean—" "You did." "That came out wrong." "No, it came out exactly the way you think when you're frightened." Her voice remained quiet. "That's why it hurts." She walked upstairs. Vincent did not follow. Neither of them saw Emma standing behind the half-closed door at the end of the corridor. Vincent came to her that evening, not with flowers, not with excuses. He sat across from her. "What I said was unforgivable." Simone said nothing. "I knew exactly where to hurt you." That made her look up. He continued. "I felt like I had lost control of everything, and Emma was the one thing I knew you would never fight me over." "You used her." "Yes." Vincent swallowed. "And I'm ashamed of it." Simone looked away. "For 6 years, Vincent, I have sat through things from your family because afterward you would tell me they didn't matter." "I know." "No, you know now because something finally happened to you." He winced. She continued. "I was never asking you to choose between me and your family. I was asking you to tell them I was part of it." Vincent moved closer. "You are." "Then start acting like it." He nodded. "I will." She looked at him for a long time. Then, "Never use Emma to hurt me again." "I won't." This time Simone wanted to believe him. So she did. Victor found the records 2 weeks later. They were buried in an old financial archive. A transfer from a company Simone once owned. Millions of dollars, paid into an emergency holding vehicle controlled by Charles. The date was years earlier, long before the will. Victor stared at the document, then smiled. He did not yet know what the payment meant. He only knew what it could be made to look like. Vincent was at home when Victor arrived. "I think you need to see this." Vincent read the document, then read it again. That was Simone's company. "Yes." "What was she paying my father for?" I don't know. This was before we were married. Yes, Vincent looked up. Victor spoke carefully. Perhaps there is a perfectly innocent explanation. Vincent's eyes hardened. Then why has no one ever told me about it? Victor did not answer. He did not need to. Simone was reading in bed when Vincent walked in holding the papers. She knew immediately, not because she had expected Victor to find them, because she remembered the account number. Her face changed. Vincent noticed. You know what this is? Yes. What did you pay my father for? It wasn't payment. Then what was it? Simone closed the book. I can't tell you, he laughed in disbelief. You can't tell your husband why you transferred millions of dollars to his father? I made Charles a promise. He's dead. A promise doesn't die because the person you made it to does? Vincent stared at her. What else did the two of you keep from me? This wasn't about keeping something from you. Then explain it. I can't. Or you won't. Simone stood. I will not break my word because Victor placed a document in your hand and told you what to think about it. Vincent's face changed. So you know Victor showed me. Who else would? You always thought you understood this family better than I did. No, I simply learned what each of them does when they want something. And what did my father want from you? Simone's eyes filled, but she refused to cry. There are things Charles asked me never to tell you. Vincent stepped back. To him, it sounded like confession. To Simone, it was loyalty. Neither knew yet how expensive that misunderstanding would become. Victor waited another day before making his proposal. Challenge the trust. Vincent stared at him. On what grounds? Undisclosed financial dealings, possible undue influence, conflict of interest. You're accusing my wife of manipulating my father. I'm telling you to force the truth into the open. Vincent stood. No. Victor nodded. All right. That easy surrender irritated him. You think I'm weak? I think you love your wife. I do. I also think Charles knew that. Vincent's eyes narrowed. Victor continued. Your father placed your inheritance in her hands, your daughter's future in her hands. Then we discover she had private financial dealings with him years before any of us knew. Stop. How much humiliation do you intend to endure before you remember whose son you are? Vincent's voice dropped. Be careful. Victor stood too. I am being careful. Charles isn't here to explain himself. Simone refuses. So either you accept whatever version of your life they decided you were allowed to know. He placed the documents on the desk. Or you find out the truth. For 2 nights, Vincent did not sleep. Simone assumed he was angry. She did not know he was meeting lawyers. She did not know Victor had prepared documents. She did not know Vincent had convinced himself that challenging her authority was not the same thing as betraying her. Until he signed. He knew what the papers would do. He signed anyway. 3 days later, Simone walked into an emergency board meeting carrying a folder containing the most important evidence she had found since Charles died. She stopped at the door. Vincent was already there. Beside Victor, 2 attorneys sat across from them. Simone looked at her husband. He did not stand. The chairman cleared his throat. Mrs. Hawthorne, allegations have been raised regarding previously undisclosed financial transactions between yourself and the late Charles Hawthorne. Simone did not look away from Vincent. You did this? His face was pale. I need answers. You could have asked me. I did. And I told you I had made a promise. To a dead man over your husband, Victor interrupted. This is not a marital argument. Simone turned to him. No, it isn't. She finally understood. Then she looked back at Vincent. He said quietly, I have to protect Emma and the company. Simone stared at him. From me? Vincent could not answer. That silence ended their marriage long before either of them used the word divorce. The legal challenge temporarily restricted Simone's ability to authorize several categories of transactions. It was exactly what Victor needed. Within 48 hours, 2 Hawthorne subsidiaries pledged assets against loans they had never previously used. A property portfolio was shifted. An obscure acquisition company exercised an option Charles had previously frozen. Simone received the alert at 3 a.m. She sat upright, then opened Charles's notes. Do not allow transfer after my death. Her hands went cold. Victor had not helped Vincent challenge her because he believed she was dangerous. Victor needed her out of the way. By sunrise, Simone was in the office with Charles's attorney and 2 forensic accountants. They began tracing the entities, layers of ownership, trusts, holding companies, nominees. One name appeared repeatedly, not Victor's. That would have been too easy, but every path eventually led to people or firms connected to him. Charles had discovered the beginnings of it before he died. Victor had been positioning Hawthorne Holdings for a manufactured liquidity crisis. If enough obligations were triggered at once, parts of the company would be forced into distressed sales. Companies Victor secretly controlled would purchase those assets for a fraction of their value. He did not intend to inherit Charles's empire. He intended to carve it apart. But he had needed someone inside the protected structure. Someone with standing, someone angry enough to help him challenge Simone. Vincent. Simone sat back in her chair. Charles had seen it coming, maybe not every detail, but enough. Victor moved quickly once he realized Simone was tracing him. He told Vincent she was inventing allegations to save herself. Vincent wanted to believe him, because the alternative required admitting something much worse. That Simone had been right, that Charles had been right, that he had helped the one man his father had been trying to stop. Then the attorney called. "There has been a triggering event under Charles's estate instructions," Vincent frowned. "What event?" "The formal challenge to Simone's integrity." A sealed file had been released. Charles had prepared it years earlier, and suddenly the oldest mystery in Simone and Vincent's marriage opened. The file began with an internal investigation from nearly 7 years earlier. Before Simone and Vincent married, before Emma called Simone her mother, before the Hawthornes began accusing her of wanting their money, Hawthorne Holdings had nearly collapsed. The company's chief financial officer had spent years diverting funds and concealing unauthorized liabilities. When he realized Charles was becoming suspicious, he altered approval records so that several of the largest transactions appeared to originate from Vincent's office. If the scandal broke before Charles could prove what had happened, Vincent would be blamed. Banks would withdraw. Investors would panic. Thousands of jobs would be threatened. Charles needed time and money. The file contained another document, a sale agreement, Simone's company. The business she had built long before she married Vincent. She had sold it, everything. The next document showed where the money went, into Charles's emergency vehicle, the transaction Victor had presented as evidence that Simone had bought Charles's favor. Vincent stared at the page. His hands began shaking. The attorney continued reading. Simone had discovered discrepancies while working on a property-related project connected to Hawthorne Holdings. She had taken them directly to Charles. When Charles realized the scale of the fraud, he told her the company might not survive long enough for him to expose it. Simone sold her business, then gave Charles the money, not loaned, gave. Charles had later tried to repay her. She refused. He had asked whether Vincent knew. She said no. Then came a handwritten statement Charles had preserved. Vincent recognized Simone's signature beneath it. No disclosure of these funds or their source is to be made to Vincent Hawthorne without my written consent. Vincent whispered, "Why?" The attorney turned another page. Charles had written the answer himself. "Simone does not want my son spending his marriage believing that he owes her." Vincent stopped breathing. There was more. The chief financial officer had eventually been exposed. The evidence cleared Vincent. The man was prosecuted and later imprisoned. Hawthorne Holdings survived. Vincent's career survived. His reputation survived. And for 6 years, the woman his family called a gold digger had never told anyone that before she married into the Hawthorne fortune. She had sacrificed nearly everything she owned to save it. Vincent covered his mouth. He remembered every dinner, every joke, every time his mother implied Simone wanted money, every time Victor mocked where she came from, every time Simone looked at him waiting for him to say something, and every time he had waited until they were alone. Don't let them get to you. You know who you are. Why give them the satisfaction? He had thought Simone was enduring his family because she loved him. Now he understood the full truth. She had been enduring people who insulted her for wanting a fortune she had once quietly saved. The attorney handed him one final document, Charles's handwriting. She gave up everything she had before she possessed any assurance that this family would ever give her anything in return. That is why I trust her." Vincent closed his eyes, but Charles had not finished speaking. There was one final recording, for him. Charles appeared on the screen alone. "Vincent," his son looked up. "If you are watching this recording, then one of two things has happened. Either Simone has been accused of dishonesty, or you have helped accuse her." Vincent's face collapsed. Charles continued. "Years ago, I watched Simone sacrifice something she had spent most of her adult life building, because she believed your future mattered more than her comfort. I asked her why she did not tell you. She told me she wanted a husband, not a debtor." Vincent looked down. "I should have told you anyway." A pause. "Perhaps then you would have understood the woman you married before I died." Charles leaned closer to the camera. "But the reason I protected the company was not an old crime." Vincent looked up. "Victor," Charles said the name slowly. "Your uncle has been moving assets through companies he believes I did not trace. I traced enough. But stopping Victor requires more than blocking transactions. Because Victor cannot take this family from outside. He needs a Hawthorne to open the door." Vincent went completely still. Charles's expression hardened. "I know my brother. Unfortunately, I know my son too." Vincent flinched. "Victor will not tempt you with money first. He will tempt you with wounded pride. He will tell you that I chose Simone over you. He will tell you that your inheritance is your birthright. He will make your wife's authority feel like your humiliation. And if you are hearing this because you stood beside Victor against her..." Charles paused. "Then I was right to protect this company from both of you." Vincent's eyes filled. Charles's voice softened. "I did not give Simone 12 months because I needed 12 months to discover who she was. I already knew. I gave you 12 months because I hoped you would discover it too." The screen went dark. Vincent sat motionless. The entire inheritance had never been Simone's test. It had been his, and he had failed. Victor did not wait for the investigators to come to him. Before sunrise the next morning, he went to his private office intending to collect what he could and leave before the board could stop him. Simone was already there. She sat beside the conference table with Charles's file in front of her and the transaction records arranged in a neat stack. Victor stopped in the doorway. "You should not be here." Simone looked up. "Neither should you, not for much longer." Victor closed the door behind him. Charles died before he could prove any of this. He did. A faint smile touched Victor's mouth. "Then you have nothing." Simone slid the first document across the table. Charles traced enough. She placed a second beside it. "I traced the rest. The shell companies, the loan guarantees, the distressed purchase options, the beneficial owners hidden behind nominees, who all led back to Victor." Then Simone placed Vincent's authorization on top. Victor's expression tightened. "Your husband signed that." "Yes." "Then perhaps you should be confronting him." "I already have." Simone stood. "Vincent will answer for the choices he made." She looked directly at Victor. "So will you." Victor gave a short laugh and reached for the door. It opened before he touched it. Charles's attorney stood outside with the head of corporate security and 2 financial crimes investigators. Victor stopped. The attorney spoke first. "Mr. Hawthorne, a court order has frozen the entities connected to these transactions. Your board authority is suspended effective immediately." For the first time since Charles's death, Victor had nothing to say. He looked past them to Simone. "You think this family will choose you after this?" Simone shook her head. "I am not asking them to." The investigators stepped inside. By noon, the accounts were frozen. Records were being seized, and Victor's network of companies had begun collapsing around him. The man who had spent weeks convincing Vincent that Simone was stealing the Hawthorne inheritance had been trying to steal it himself. Simone did not celebrate. There was nothing satisfying about watching a family destroy itself. She had only wanted to protect what Charles had asked her to protect, especially Emma. Vincent came home 3 nights later. Simone was packing, not everything, just enough. He stood in the doorway. "I know," she continued, folding clothes. "I know what you did." Her hands stopped for half a second, then continued. "I know about the company you sold." Silence. "The money." Silence. My father. Simone zipped the suitcase. Vincent's voice broke. Why didn't you tell me? She turned. Would it have changed what you did? He had no answer. I'm sorry, she looked at him. Not angry, that was worse. I'm so sorry, Simone. He stepped closer. I spent 6 years asking you to understand my family. Her eyes filled. I never once asked my family to understand you. No. I should have defended you. Yes. I should have trusted you. Yes. I was angry at my father. I made that anger yours. Simone nodded. Yes. Vincent swallowed. Is there anything I can say? There was. His face changed. 6 years ago, she picked up her bag. 5 years ago, another step. Last year, she looked at him. The day of Charles's funeral. Vincent closed his eyes. You watched them hurt me for 6 years because defending me would have made your life uncomfortable. He whispered. I know. No, listen. He opened his eyes. When your mother insulted me, you comforted me. When Victor mocked me, you comforted me. When they excluded me, you comforted me. I mistook that for love because I wanted this marriage to work. Tears slipped down her face. But when you thought I stood between you and your inheritance, Vincent, her voice broke for the first time. Watching wasn't enough anymore. You joined them. Vincent began crying. I made a mistake. No. Simone shook her head. You made many mistakes. Signing those papers was a choice. Standing beside Victor was a choice. Using Emma against me was a choice. And every time your family reminded me I wasn't one of you and you said nothing. She took a breath. That was a choice too. Vincent reached for her. Simone stepped away. That small movement devastated him more than any accusation. I love you. I know. Then how can you leave? Simone looked at him. Because loving you has cost me enough. Simone left before Vincent could ask her to stay again. For once, an apology was not the last thing he intended to do. The next morning, before any subpoena or board order forced him to speak, Vincent called Charles's attorney and the chairman himself. He asked for a formal meeting with the investigators, handling Victor's transactions. His own attorney tried to stop him outside the boardroom. You can still argue that Victor misled you. Do not volunteer anything beyond what they can prove. Vincent looked at him. Was I misled when I signed the challenge against Simone? The attorney hesitated. Victor manipulated you. That is not what I asked. Silence. Vincent continued. Did I know those papers were meant to remove my wife from control? Yes. Then write that down too. His attorney lowered his voice. If you give them a complete statement, a state council may treat it as an admission that you knowingly breached Charles's trust conditions. You could lose the CEO position. You could lose the inheritance. Vincent looked through the glass doors. Simone was already inside with the investigators. He did not know whether she would ever forgive him. For the first time, that was not the condition attached to doing the right thing. Then I lose it. Inside, Vincent handed over his messages with Victor, the dates of their private meetings, the documents he had signed, and the instructions Victor had given him. He did not call himself confused. He did not call himself a victim. When the statement was finished, Simone finally looked at him. Vincent met her eyes. You do not have to forgive me. His voice shook, but he continued. But you are not going to watch me protect myself one more time. Then he signed the statement. His cooperation helped close the remaining gaps in the case against Victor. It also removed the last ambiguity about Vincent's own choices. Charles's trust had anticipated more than Vincent realized. By knowingly participating in the effort to interfere with the protected estate, Vincent had triggered a forfeiture clause. His statement simply made it impossible for anyone, including him, to pretend otherwise. The controlling shares he expected to inherit would never become his. He lost his position as chief executive. He retained personal investments and property that belonged to him independently. He was not left poor. But the Hawthorne legacy he had spent his life believing would someday prove his father respected him was gone. Simone did not take it away. Charles did not take it away. Vincent had forfeited it himself. The hardest conversation came with Emma. She was sitting on her bed when Simone entered. There was a suitcase beside the door. Emma looked at it. You're leaving. Simone sat beside her. Your father and I need to live separately for a while. For a while? Simone could not lie. Probably longer than that. Emma stared at her hands. Because of me? No. Because Daddy said you weren't my mother? Simone froze. Emma looked up. I heard him. Oh, sweetheart. You are. Simone's eyes filled. Emma continued. You adopted me. I know. You stayed when I was sick. Simone pulled her closer. You came to everything. Emma began crying. So he can't just say you're not my mom because he's angry. No, he can't. Are you leaving me too? That question broke something inside Simone. No. She wrapped her arms around her. No. Never. Emma clung to her. Then I want to go with you. Emma. I want to. Your father loves you. I love Daddy too. Emma wiped her face. But loving Daddy doesn't mean I have to lose you. Simone held her tighter. From the hallway, Vincent heard every word. He did not interrupt. Perhaps for the first time in years, he understood that loving someone sometimes meant allowing their voice to matter more than his pride. Because Simone was Emma's legal mother too, their separation would have to be handled properly. There would be lawyers, schedules, decisions. But when Emma made it clear that she wanted Simone's home to remain her primary home, Vincent did not fight her. He had already used his daughter once as a weapon against his wife. He would not do it again. Months passed. Victor's case moved through the courts. Several members of the Hawthorne board resigned. Others were removed. Simone could have dismantled the company. She could have sold assets and walked away wealthy enough never to work again. She did neither. Charles had trusted her to protect something. She would finish the job. She restructured the board. Independent oversight was introduced. The family's ability to move company assets for personal purposes was sharply reduced. Employee protections were strengthened. Emma's trust was placed behind layers no relative could casually penetrate again. When the 12-month period ended, Charles's remaining instructions took effect. Emma became the principal future beneficiary of the protected Hawthorne family holdings. Simone received a substantial ownership interest of her own, not because she had married Vincent. Charles had made that painfully clear, because she had twice been given the opportunity to use Hawthorne wealth for herself, and twice chose to protect other people instead. The woman once accused of entering the family for its fortune now controlled enough money to transform her life forever. Yet the thing she valued most had nothing to do with Charles's shares. One Saturday morning, Simone sat at the kitchen table in the smaller house she had chosen after leaving the Hawthorne mansion. Emma was beside her, surrounded by cardboard, glue, and pieces of colored paper. She was building a model for a school project, or destroying one. Simone was no longer sure. Emma held up a crooked cardboard wall. Is that terrible? It has character. That means terrible. It means structurally adventurous. Emma laughed. On the shelf behind them sat a framed photograph of Charles. Not the formal portrait used in company offices. A candid picture Emma had chosen. Charles was laughing. Emma noticed Simone looking at it. Do you miss Grandpa? Yes, even after everything? Especially after everything. Emma went quiet. Then she asked, do you think he knew? Knew what? That I'd stay with you. Simone smiled. I don't know. Emma considered that. I think he did. Why? Because he knew everyone. Simone laughed softly. I'm not sure everyone would agree. Emma looked at the photograph again. Then at Simone. He knew you. Something tightened in Simone's throat. Emma reached across the table and took her hand. For 6 years, Simone had tried to earn a place inside the Hawthorne family. She had swallowed insults, excused silences, accepted private apologies for public humiliation. She had thought belonging meant eventually convincing them that she deserved to stand beside them. Charles's death taught her something different. Some families were inherited, some were married into, and some were created quietly, through ordinary acts of love repeated until nobody could remember when they had stopped being strangers. Charles Hawthorne had left Simone wealth, power, a company, a future she could never have imagined. But the greatest inheritance he left her was sitting across the kitchen table with glue on her fingers, and one cardboard wall leaning dangerously to the left. Emma had lost a grandfather. Simone had lost a husband. But neither of them had lost their family. And in the end, that was the only inheritance Simone had ever wanted.